times have we seen Obama and the left blame Bush for foreign policy gaffes?
An appointee from the previous administration.
Who was appointed by President Bush.
It dated back to the previous administration.
The former administration.
Poor policy decisions that had been made in the previous administration. So
the mainstream media's culpability in enabling this blame game is mind-blowing. Obama's foreign policy of capitulation is more responsible for the mess we find ourselves in than anything President Bush ever did, yet he gets none of the heat. This is not a new phenomenon. The left has been covering up liberal foreign policy errors for decades. Take the Balkan Wars. This is the 20th anniversary of the Srebrenica massacre, which was an attack that sparked full-on NATO involvement in the conflict. UN Ambassador and wife to Cass Sunstein, Samantha Power, tweeted this on July 11th. 20 years ago, I was a 24-year-old journalist in Sarajevo when Bosnian Serbs took Srebrenica and began genocide. Still haunted by our collective failure. That's interesting. Even more so when you know Ms. Powers' background. You see, in the 90s, she was a member of the mainstream media reporting directly from the Balkans. It was her blatantly biased and one-sided reporting that enabled Islamic terrorists to slaughter Christians in the former Yugoslavia, long before ISIS began their scourge across the Middle East. In her reports, she painted Serbian military action negatively, even though they were just responding to jihadist attacks. Attacks that mirror the same atrocities we're now seeing on ISIS videos. Christians were being slaughtered wholesale by Bosnian Muslims, who went village to village, burning churches and murdering as many Christians as they could find. Beheadings, crucifixions, rape, and much, much more were standard fare. And this is only at Srebrenica. The situation in Sarajevo began not by Serbian aggression, but by, guess what? A Muslim terrorist attack in an Orthodox Christian church. Where was Samantha Power on that atrocity? Silent. You see, it didn't fit the media's agenda, because it would have been an embarrassment to the president at the time, Bill Clinton. See, when it came time to pick sides, he picked the radical Muslims over the Serbs, even though the Muslims were slaughtering Christians. And Samantha Power kept it quiet, because of politics. Sticking it to Russia was sure to score President Clinton political points. As the former Soviet Union continued to splinter apart, the breakup of Yugoslavia was the ultimate coup de grace. The Serbs were Orthodox and allied to Russia. The Croats were historically Catholic and leaned towards the West. But the Muslims, as seen in Afghanistan, proved to be an excellent thorn in the side of Moscow. The media spun the Serbs as the ultimate bad guy, and the Muslims the ultimate victims. All the while, Muslims were destroying Christian villages and lopping off heads in record numbers. The cries from Christians as they were systematically exterminated were drowned out by the words of journalist Samantha Power as she pointed the finger in the other direction. Now, I'm not totally exonerating the Serbs. The breakup of Yugoslavia saw atrocities committed on both sides. But the irresponsible and biased reporting from the mainstream media, especially people like Samantha Power, effectively brought Islamic extremism to Europe. Al-Qaeda-backed groups publicly marched in the streets. The head of Al-Qaeda in Saudi Arabia and 2 of the 9/11 hijackers were veterans of this war. These policies were responsible for their training. Even today still, Al-Qaeda has a foothold in the Balkans. The ISIS flag has even been seen flying from the balconies of Balkan houses. But the media covered all this up. At the time, they declared it a victory for the Clintons. Samantha Power went on to become presidential advisor to Obama. She was instrumental in persuading Obama to intervene into Libya. And we've all seen how that ended up. American blood is still fresh in the streets of Benghazi. Now she's our ambassador to the UN. Between Power and her presidents Bill and Barack, they are responsible for some of the most violent outbreaks of Islamic extremism ever. For 8 years, they've been blaming Bush for their mistakes. That time is over.